Will's been a tremendous support and a great friend, and he has a lot of really good insight on scaling and building companies. My strength is creating content and building relationships and like writing dope shit. Will's strength is taking an idea, scaling it, building systems to support it, making a ton of money, and knowing how to hire people. So these are all useful skills. So I think that this is going to be a really interesting opportunity for you guys to hear his story, and I think it's so cool that you guys are hearing real stories from entrepreneurs who are doing great stuff, the real origin stories of how these things came to be, you know. And so this is another great opportunity to hear kind of where Will started, where the company StartupBros kind of was founded and where it's gone, and really get to see what it takes to scale a company to 6, 7, 8 figures, which he's done with grace and not necessarily ease though, right?
And probably not poise either.
Probably not poise.
In hindsight.
Yeah, in hindsight. But I'll let you kind of take over from there. And
Yeah. Thank you for the glowing intro. And I always say Daniel is one of my very good friends in this industry, but also someone that really pisses me off at myself, because I'll call Daniel and be like, listen, man, I got this idea. It's going to be great. It'll happen sometime within the next 6 to 12 months. 3 weeks later, Daniel's already executed it way better than I thought. Yeah, it's like, whoa. So it's always fun working with you too, because you kind of kick me in the ass too. So I was going to talk today about building a content-based business. I don't know if this is my first time doing a presentation on Mac. I don't know if there's like a clicker or am I just arrows? Yeah. So yeah, I have this business called StartupBros. I did a bunch of stuff before that. You know, I'm kind of well known for being, you know, an anti-education entrepreneur. So I actually dropped out of high school and went to college for a couple months, and they kicked me out when they realized I hadn't graduated from high school. And then from there, so right around like 12 years old, honestly, I came to the realization that entrepreneurship is not something you can learn. Entrepreneurship is something that they talk about the gut instinct, right? The only way to get that gut instinct is through experience. And I thought at 12 years old, man, if I just get out there and start making mistakes now, I have my parents and they're going to underwrite everything. So I basically have this ultimate safety net where no matter how bad I screw up, they're going to support me. So I figured, you know, get started early, go through all those lessons, and it ended up working out well for me. So I have a couple businesses that I've done before StartupBros, but I'm going to kind of skip those and just go straight into StartupBros, since that's content-based business, and that's really what I think. Some of the other businesses I've done, honestly, it's been right place, right time. I got caught up in, you know, deals that were bigger than me. And this business was pretty much the only one that I started absolutely from scratch that actually made, you know, good money and consistent money. I've had tons of hustles along my quest, I guess. But yeah, tons of hustles, tons of just little things that would work, but they were always hustles. They were never a business. And this is one of the first real hustles that I've successfully turned into a business. So that's what we're going to talk about. So how I kind of have this presentation laid out is a chronological order of kind of the steps and the breakthroughs that I've had in this business. Because, you know, I think that's what this event's supposed to be about, is showing you guys that you know, successful people have success bias. They can kind of pick parts of their story and create a really good narrative that's really exciting and things like that. But I'm sure, you know, every successful entrepreneur in here probably has 30 times as many failures as success stories. But you just never hear them from successful people. So I wanted to kind of go through and just give you a really honest look at how this business actually came into being, the good, the bad, everything, as well as some of the insights and breakthroughs that I had kind of creating this business. And I'm not sure how long this will end up being, so it could be a long one, could be a short one, but definitely feel free to jump in with questions and stuff along the way. So I started this business in early 2012. Like I said, I had some success at previous companies, so I was involved in this pretty large e-commerce company, this beauty company. And so I was the CMO at that company. I was running all the marketing. I owned like 30% of the company, and, you know, traditionally successful, as they would say. But I absolutely hated it. It got to a point where it was just terrible. I would, you know, come into the hour 2-3 hours late just because the stress that would build up. And my office was like 2 minutes away from my house. But it took me hours to even go into the office because it was just so taxing emotionally and physically on me. I was just like scribbling and somehow just getting stuff out there and like acting out via paper. But so I would sit down every day and just blood pressure's through the roof, heart rate's through the roof, and I'm just thinking, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. It's fine to do this today, but this cannot be the rest of my life. I need to get out of this. So from there, yeah, if you have a question.
Yeah, do you mind me asking how old you were at this point?
At this time, I was 19. So yeah, I was lucky to get pulled into a couple bigger deals early in my career that honestly, it was just kind of right place at the right time. So that got me started. And yeah, so 26 now. So yeah. So really wanted to get back into business, entrepreneurship, startups. What I slowly discovered is that my true passion wasn't being successful. I think a lot of people start off and it's like, oh, I want to make a lot of money and then everything's going to get figured out. When you make a lot of money, things get worse because you have obligations and expectations. So I had to kind of back up and really think about what I wanted to do with my life and what my passion was and what would actually make me happy to do every single day for the rest of my life, because I was not having fun at this thing. So I started a personal blog, and it was kind of an emotional outlet at this point. So I would take ideas that things that I learned in my previous businesses, and I just found that I love business. I love interacting with entrepreneurs. I think it's so interesting that pretty much everyone wants to change the world, but nobody really does it as effectively as entrepreneurs. You can look at politicians, you can look at astronauts, you can look at really anything, athletes, celebrities. Nobody really goes out and tries to change the world. Entrepreneurship is inherently that. It's saying something's wrong with the world and I'm going to fix it and make the world a better place through doing that. So I'm just a big fan of business and started this StartupBros site to kind of vent, honestly, and was never supposed to be a business. I had no intention of making this thing a business. It was just to vent. So wrote lots of terrible blog posts for the first couple months. I have some of them here. This will be a pretty informal presentation, but so tons of blog posts of just really dumb things. And my writing style's terrible. I'm like putting bold in random places. Here's the word free. It's italicized. So like just randomness. And really had no idea what I was doing. Again, there was no business purpose in this. This was literally just kind of a personal website to have fun on. So yeah, as you can see, we really had no idea what we're doing. The call to action at this point is leave a comment. So tons of terrible blog posts. I had 3 or 4 decent ideas at this point in my life that I could go communicate. So once I wrote those 3 or 4 blog posts and kind of gave away my best ideas, that was kind of it. And I just kept on writing terrible blog posts. Like this was one of the good ones, but you could see it pretty rapidly turned into terrible things. Like 32 ways to make your blog post go viral. Just randomness. No, it did not. So just terrible. We had no idea what we were doing, who our target customer was, anything like that. Let me get back to there. So yeah, a couple good ideas, couple strategies that I shared, and then I was pretty much out. I didn't know what to do next. So even with those couple blog posts and no promotion or anything, somehow people started messaging me, they started emailing, reading, things like that. And that really helped me to refine what I was actually doing and who I was serving, because that's really the first thing you got to figure out in business, in my opinion, is who is that target customer you're serving. So much more important than a product, so much more important than anything. Like when you're first starting out, you don't have, and Manish, I agree with the people process product, but when you're first starting out, you don't have any people, you don't have any process, you don't have any products. So what do? You find someone and you figure out how to make their life better. That's basically what I was doing. So this helped me figure out who I was actually serving, how I was serving them, why they came to me instead of other people. And this really helped me refine my strategy. So that's early 2012. And you'll see through going through this whole presentation today, things moved really, really quickly once. These types of businesses have a snowball effect, and it's an extreme snowball effect. So expect things to go slow at first, and don't have huge expectations at first. But know that when you do get that hit, it's going to pick up, and you're going to be really running after the thing, trying to catch the tail. So lessons learned at this point in my life. No rush to quit your job. You know, the tagline of our business is actually, you don't need a job. So kind of counterintuitive that I say this, but don't be ashamed to work for somebody else. The example I have here is my director of operations now, Steve. This is a guy, incredibly smart guy. He started working for me in January of 2015, and he could leave at any given moment. Like he could go start a business that would be he would make way more money out there, but it just doesn't make sense for him to do it. Because Steven came and worked for me, he is miles ahead of where I was when I got started. And this, I'm about to spend like $20,000 to send this kid to go learn Infusionsoft, which just knowing how to do Infusionsoft well, 6-figure salary at the minimum. So don't be afraid to work for other people, especially if you're smart enough and I guess, just smart enough to really learn from them. Understand that the money you're getting from your job is the least valuable thing you get. And if you approach it that way, I think you can get a lot more out of the organizations that you work for. Honestly, if I could go back and do it all over again, I don't think I could say for certain that 20, 30 years from now, I wouldn't have been more successful if I didn't start out on my own. If I just went and worked for other people until this age, very possible that I'd be more successful in the future. So definitely don't be in a rush to quit your job. Some of the best businesses in the world are built with funding from a full-time job. So that's how I funded this business. That's how I kind of paid the bills and everything while I was doing it. At this stage, when you don't have anything up, like I said, you don't have any people, you don't have any process, you have no product, you really have to figure out how to create value for other people. And once you can figure that out, then you just scale that up. I think it's really easy to make these businesses really complex. They're very, very simple businesses. Put content out there, the content helps people, it connects with people, and then they tell you things that they want to give you money for. You give them those things, they give you the money. It's a very simple business, but it's an extremely easy business to just make wildly complex. So yeah, just focus on creating value for other people. Look at how a company like Airbnb was created. Airbnb, when they first started out, it was 2 guys on Craigslist. They would go on Craigslist and they would post in one section and say, hey, I have a house to rent out. Tell me how much you want to rent this house out for. And then they would go on another place of Craigslist and say, hey, I need to rent this house. Here's how much money I have to rent the house. So it was literally a concierge service at first. And once they figured out that there was no market to connect homeowners and people that wanted to rent those homes, they said, man, we have a business here. And then they built the website, and within like a year and a half, they were a multi-billion-dollar company. Went from one guy posting on Craigslist to a multi-billion-dollar company in like 18 months. But they figured out how they could create value for people, and then they just figured out how to make that exchange more efficient. And that, at the end of the day, I think is business. Definitely accept that everything is a learning curve. I think you have to, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to embrace the concept that the more you fail, the more successful you will be. I do a lot of things, you probably do a lot of things. Manish probably not as much since he has a physical product business here, but I do a lot of things that I know will lose money. The event that you came out to, absolutely lost money on that. But because we did that, now I know how to run large-scale conferences all around the world for you. So accept that everything's a learning curve, and entrepreneurship is a degree, it is a college that you have to pay for by losing money. And of course, that's a hard pill to swallow, but I think the more comfortable you can get with that, the better you will be in the long run as an entrepreneur. So definitely, the more you fail, the more successful you'll be. That doesn't have to be just monetary either. Look how many terrible blog posts we have on our site. There's like 5 blog posts that get probably 90% of our traffic and 140 that do nothing for us. So I'm failing all the time. The more, if I'm not failing, I'm not having fun. Because that's new stuff, that's new territory I can break into. Doing the same stuff every day, that's not fun. So the more you can fail, the more successful you'll be in the long run. And at this stage, really focus on building relationships with the actual individual people in your audience. The people that emailed me from these first few blog posts are some of my closest members of my audience now. These are people that write me Christmas letters and like all sorts of stuff. These people still follow me to this day. They've never given me a dime, I don't think, but that's not what matters. It's you have to figure out, you have to prioritize, especially in a business like this, you have to prioritize the individual relationship and connection that you're making with each individual person, which is something that Daniel does incredibly well, and I do not do as well. So that's early 2012. I think I started the site, early 2012. So late 2012, I'm still pretty much doing the same thing, right? And then one day, someone emailed me completely off topic. He's like, hey, I want to start selling on eBay. Do you have any advice for me? The email was almost that short. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I used to do that when I was a kid. I used to do counterfeits and stuff, import them from China, sell them online. So yeah, I could probably help you with that a little bit. Had not spoken about this at all. There was nowhere on our website that mentioned anything about importing e-commerce. This was someone that just said, hey, here's this cool guy in business that's helping people. I'm going to email him and see if he can help me. So again, that relationship is what led to it all. My email response to this guy ended up being really, really long. I think it ended up being like 8 paragraphs or something in the email. So at that point, because again, just going above and beyond to create as much value for other people as I can at this point. So 8 paragraphs in this email, and eventually I'm like, all right, I'll just turn this into a blog post, turn it into a content piece. Probably spent 15 to 20 hours to actually write this thing, and I actually haven't touched it since. It's on my to-do list to update it. But this is the email that actually did this. And I'll show you this again at the end, because once you realize how much money I've made off this email, you will be amazed. So this is the email. This is it. Excited by the content I've read so far. Here's my site. It's completely irrelevant from e-commerce. I don't even know why it told me that. I want to get into selling on eBay, maybe importing from China domestically, yada yada. And again, like this was my email at this point. We had no lead magnets. We had nothing to give people. It was just me writing blog posts for people and creating value for them. And when I create value for other people, they tend to follow me. That's just how life works. So this was our email. You can see, apparently I'm using Comic Sans or something. I don't know why anyone let me do this. Still really into bolding. I don't know why. And still really into dumb words, like freaking easy. It's got a head spinning. It's amazing. So just really bad. And our call to action at this point was pretty much reply, right? Just email us. Please, for the love of God, someone talk to us. That was kind of our call to action. And let's see. I don't even know what I said to this guy in hindsight, but we emailed back probably 10, 11 times. Here's the original email I sent back to him. And I just expanded on this, and you can see right here. I might turn this into a blog post, and thank God I did. So I don't actually know what else happened here, but I'm sure it was fun. But anyways, so I got nothing out of this, right? I'm just sitting here helping this guy. And so at that point, we're in late 2012, and spoiler alert, we're still very far away from me making money. So 15 to 20 hours just to write that one blog post. I already had responded to this guy. So like Daniel was talking about earlier, because I had just responded to this guy, I was really in his head. I knew the problems he was having, the language he was using, the tone he was saying it in. So I wanted to really quickly take that and turn it into a blog post. So like that weekend, carved out the time, 15 to 20 hours. I'm so bad at writing content too. This post probably would have taken you like 2 hours, me 15, 20 hours minimum. So did that, haven't touched it since, and all I did was share this thing on Reddit. Crazy. It just blew up. Within 2 hours, we were the #1 thing on Reddit Entrepreneurship. We stayed up there for like 10 days or something crazy. But again, the focus at this point was creating as much value as I possibly could for anybody that would listen to me, because I didn't have an audience. I had no one to listen to me. So just saw that it blew up on Reddit. I sat there and did a AMA for them, kind of an impromptu AMA. Just started answering questions. So this thing stayed on the top of our Reddit Entrepreneurship for like a week and a half, because I was just sitting in there. I think it's got like 600 comments. Half of them are me just responding to people. So it was an incredible amount of time and energy. But again, I had no expectation for this thing to ever make money. Like this was my salvation, because I could go home from this job I hated every day and just sit here and submerge myself in entrepreneurship again and help people start these businesses, figure out what problems they're having. So that was late 2012. Lessons learned on this. Startups have the luxury of speaking with each individual person in your audience. Once you get not even very big, you will lose the ability to talk to people, and it really screws things up because it just becomes really difficult. And again, Daniel is someone that's really mastered the scale of relationship building. The individual relationships are just so important. And I think every person in here would say that Daniel DiPiazza, probably the best person that I've met at doing that. Scaling up relationships is very, very difficult, but that's what these businesses are at the end of the day. No one follows StartupBros, they follow me. Nobody follows Rich20Something, they follow Daniel. They follow the people and the team behind it. So when you do have the luxury of speaking to each individual person, that's how you beat us. We can't do that anymore. If we could do that, it would be awesome, but we can't do it. So I know we've been talking a lot today about, 30 grand of Facebook ads and all these staff and all this expense, right? All this money. Let me tell you what scares the hell out of me, and I would imagine scares the hell out of you, is small people that can attack little pieces of my market where I just won't be able to keep up, because these people can individually email, get them on the phone, close them like that. I'll just lose customers and never even know what's happening. So don't feel, the startups have, especially one-person solopreneur startups, have such huge advantages in flexibility and nimbleness and personalization. That's how you beat us.
Yeah, I just want to interject here. That's exactly how Rich20 started. So you know this, Rob, you're there from the very beginning. I had this entire thing set up so that it was designed to create interaction. One simple thing I did was the opt-in form when you initially opted into the website led to a blog post. Like you got an email and I'm like, if you do one thing, you must leave a comment. It's mandatory for signing up. And I would force people to leave a comment. Probably 20% of people would, but every comment I responded to. When you respond to a comment, it notifies the people that you responded, and now I would create a conversation in the thread. So we had hundreds and hundreds of comments as the very first thing, and everyone saw when they came to my website. They're like, holy shit, this dude is actually on his website that he made. At some points, I even had like a live chat on my website. I would sit there all day and talk. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember the live chat?
Yeah.
And so that's what we still try to do with Facebook now, but it's harder.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely it's the best thing. Even when you are bigger, you still got to find a way to do it.
Yeah, and that's the toughest part about scaling this business, honestly.
Just one thing is that I noticed a ton of entrepreneurs in my space that when you get money, you do what you think is right, and you just go out and spend a lot of money on doing what you think is right. And I think the reason why we were doing well is because we didn't have money, so we had to talk to our customers and get the product out there and find out that what I believe was completely wrong. And so there's a huge benefit to not having money. And like you said, you have a superpower because you can talk to your customers and make them love you.
And as the company gets bigger and more complex, and I got 7 staff members that are coming in all day asking me questions, you lose the ability to even focus for long periods of time and get these things done. So there are a lot of luxuries to just starting up, and I can name many people that have taken parts of my market because I just can't move fast enough on the individual relationships, and they can. So absolutely focus on that. Create actionable content that's immediately valuable to your target customers, and do it ASAP. Like I said, I heard a really brilliant, I don't know who said this, but at some point I heard someone in kind of our industry say that he records every single thing he does, and it's really a brilliant idea. Like if you just have this screen recorder going on your computer all the time and a microphone going all the time, the quicker you can get your knowledge out to your target audience, the better it's going to be. Because again, if I have to go back in 6 months and put myself back in that mindset, the content won't be as good. I won't be using the right language, the right pain points, things like that. So anytime, I like this concept I've come up with of working into your inspiration. So if you're feeling inspired, do it now, because you'll lose that inspiration in a heartbeat. And there are days when you're going to wake up and you have stuff to do and you just don't want to do it, and you just can't do it. So anytime you feel inspired, I think you got to execute immediately on that, especially when you're first starting out. Because when you're first starting out, you don't have 60,000 different things demanding your attention. You just have to create value for that target customer. Business is 90% exposure. I see a lot of people that create a lot of great content that nobody ever sees. The majority of great content on the internet is never looked at by anybody. Well, that's an exaggeration, but it's very unpopular. And the reason for that is because they don't know how to promote it. Again, I'm not saying go out and figure out all these crazy little internet marketing tactics, because really you only need one thing that works. Like what built our business? One blog post, and it wasn't even the blog post, right? Because if I just had the blog post, nothing would have happened. But when I put that thing on Reddit, that combination took off and literally built the entire business, which I'll show you some revenue numbers here in a little bit. And to really think about the amount of money that this one blog post made is mind-boggling. Like Ashley, my girlfriend, right before I left for here, I was like, yeah, I'm going out and doing this, because it's all these different things that are related to this business. And she's like, I cannot believe that this all started off of that one blog post. And I'm like, it's wild. That's all you need, though. So yeah, every piece of content, good content, bad content, you're going to have to give it a shot of adrenaline. So be ready to do that. So 2013, this is kind of a dead year for StartupBros. Nothing really happened, but tended to the content that we built and the audience that we built, and sounds like a similar thing that you did. I pretty much just responded to people's emails for a year, and didn't have anything to sell them, didn't have any lead magnets, didn't really know what the hell I was doing. I was just kind of responding to comments. Yeah. I got all these little one-liners and these template emails, and yeah. But none of it was doing anything from a monetary perspective. I was still losing money. The real truth here was I had no idea what to do next. I had this audience. That's it. I just had so many emails coming in every day that I couldn't even take a step back and figure out what the next thing to do was. And I had no mentors or coaches in my life to say, in this type of business at least, to say like, oh, okay, now this is the next step. So I literally just sat here for a year and answered emails. Literally, it was a nightmare. Yeah, not nearly as much though. I think in 2013, if I had to guess, we'd probably put up like 6 blog posts. So Daniel's gonna be very upset from that. Yes, anti-consistency. But we knew we needed the consistency. We were just, it's a good problem to have, but we were drowning in customers. Not even customers, we were drowning in fans and readers and things like that. So it's a good problem to have, but certainly a problem. And one difficult thing that we've had to do, and it took a very long time to do it, and I'm sure you've had the same issue, our call to action used to be engagement. It was email us, comment, and once you go beyond a certain point, you have to start disincentivizing those things. And you have to figure out how to deliver that same value through business systems and different automation tricks, and just all sorts of different things.
I'll reply to my emails.
Yeah, so it took a very long time. We had to go through everything and kind of rebuild everything with these new call to actions and stuff. But so literally I had no idea what to do next. I was getting tens of thousands of visitors, thousands of emails a month, no idea what to do. Yeah, like I said, 6 to 8 hours a day. I was literally going into work every day, and this is why I survived at this job for another year. I was literally just going into work every day and answering emails from this company. So I guess don't tell them, but. So yeah, stopped producing content because I was so busy with this stuff. In late 2013, I finally kind of came to the point where I said, all right, financially secure, having more fun with this business, I'm going to step away from the CMO position at this e-commerce company and actually run StartupBros as an actual business, which ironically is probably right around the time we met, right after this.
Exactly,
yeah. So much more passionate about that. Honestly, it wasn't even about the money. The e-commerce company still to this day makes a lot more money than this business, but I just like doing this, and I get to fly around, do stuff like this, and that's much more fun than our e-commerce company sells hair color to hair salons. So not really my cup of tea. So like I said, this is a pretty dead year for us. I really didn't accomplish much in 2013. I was just kind of in this transition phase where I had no idea what to do next. And this is an interesting part. I have nothing to sell you guys today, but be willing to spend money for coaches and things like that. If I wasn't an idiot and I just paid like $5,000 for a coach, like this is a real asset I had here that I missed out on probably millions of dollars of revenue that I could have had because I didn't know what to do for a year. It would have been so much smarter for me to just go pay a couple grand to someone that's already done it and say, what do I do next? Like there's one really good app called Clarity.fm, and it's basically phone coaching. So this makes it so much easier. But you can basically just go on there and see all these different coaches and experts and just give them a call. And it charges you like per minute or something. But literally, if I would have done that at the beginning of 2013, I may have been years ahead of where I'm at now.
Self-plug. If you guys want coaching, I got 2 spots left. Self-plug.
So, lessons learned in 2013. Never forget that your goal is to help individual people. It's very easy in these businesses to be absorbed by ego. And the majority of people that have success in this internet marketing, info marketing, content marketing, this space, end up being absorbed by the ego, and they just destroy themselves at the first hint of success. So you have to keep in mind that the only reason you exist is to create value in other people's lives. If you ever stop doing that, everyone will just abandon you. They won't care anymore. Especially today, like there's more competition in these industries than ever. So when I stop posting, they're going to go to Daniel. They're going to be like, God, this Daniel guy, he's awesome. They're going to completely forget about me within a month or two at the most. And that's like my real, tight people. The majority of people lose sight of that the only reason you exist is to create value in other people's lives. And you have to remember that they're individual people. Because, like we talked about, that's one of the toughest parts to scale up in this business. Yes. So another thing, every successful person has to figure things out as they go. I think there's kind of this deception that we're all, it's not even something that's sold to us, it's just something we kind of automatically think, but we look at successful people and we just assume that they're successful and everything just goes well for them and it's just amazing and peaches and butterflies. Successful people, like once you make money, now you can lose money. When I didn't have any money, the most I could lose was like a couple grand. Now I can lose hundreds of thousands of dollars very easily. So every successful person has to start at zero, and I really think you have to kind of level up in this thing. Treat it like a video game, right? Because when I first started out, I was very uncomfortable losing a couple $100. Now a couple $100, like testing money, So through losing money and through failure, that's really where you develop this gut instinct. Why is it that people like us all know webinars and email marketing and content marketing and how it all ties together and the tools for this and the tools for that? Is because I've literally spent hundreds of hours going through every goddamn tool out there and figuring out what the difference between each one is and all these different things. So keep in mind, it's a grind. If you want to be an entrepreneur, be a professional entrepreneur. Don't be this hobbyist. Treat it like a job. Treat it like your life, because that's what it is. Especially as this stuff gets more competitive, the people that are waking up at 4:45 in the morning doing the consistent content creation, things like that, those people will win in the long run. And yeah, you have to accept that you don't know everything and that you're going to fail often. I know I keep on coming back to this whole concept of being okay with failure, because that really is such a central part of this. I see so many people, so many of my clients that know what to do, they know everything to do, they just won't do it because they're too scared to do it. And they think that, there's this misconception, this kind of school, formal education version of life where you either pass or you fail. Entrepreneurship is the grayest thing you can go into. Things that work for Daniel might not work for me. Things that work for me might put you out of business. Like it's so personal. The only thing that holds you back is from growing as an entrepreneur is really yourself. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about entrepreneurship is my businesses don't grow until I grow as a person. I need to figure out what I'm doing wrong. And it's very easy for people to kind of blame their team or their company or the market or the industry. At the end of the day, unless you're making at least $1 million a year, the only competition you have is yourself. And you have to work on yourself. You have to understand that this stuff isn't fun. Like, I know a lot of people want to act like entrepreneurship's fun. It is so much harder to go out and start on your own than to just get a job. This is infinitely harder, and it's something that never ends, right? And there's risk involved. So get out there and start failing, honestly. Get out there and start failing, because every single person in here is more than smart enough to figure it out as they go. And that's what entrepreneurship's all about. I'm sure you've all heard the metaphor, jump off the cliff and build the plane on the way down. That's entrepreneurship in a nutshell. So early 2014, 2013 didn't go well, lost a bunch of money. 2014, so December 2013, I had gotten out of my position at the other company. Early 2014, I started looking at similar businesses, these kind of content businesses, these coaching businesses, and I was just pretty much going to copy them. So they seemed to be doing webinars, so I was like, all right, I'll do a webinar. So I scheduled a webinar for April 2014, April 19th, 2014. Quit my job, moved into this house. The goal was to turn this house into an office, and I guess I probably shouldn't have put that in there. It's kind of irrelevant. This was an absolute disaster. If you ever want to see the worst webinar, I don't think I even have a recording, but it was the worst webinar I've ever seen by far. So Manish, you can relate to this. So April 18th at like 2 a.m., I'm like, okay, we got a webinar tomorrow at 3 p.m. and thousands of people are registered. All right, I'll just, and the way I registered these people for the webinar was the traffic on the website that I wasn't doing anything with, right? I had all these people that I was individually mailing and chatting with on Facebook and building these relationships. So when they got that email that said, hey, I got this webinar coming out, they almost felt obligated to show up. They almost felt obligated to tell their friends about it because I had done so much to create value for them. So I had thousands of people registered. Went to bed at 2 a.m. I was like, all right, I'm gonna wake up 11 p.m., 4 hours straight, just gonna knock out this webinar, execute the webinar, it's gonna be awesome. I woke up like 1:30 and the webinar was at 3, so I had like 90 minutes to do everything. So now I'm really freaking out, right? And I went and I just Googled like sales webinar template. First thing that comes up, buy it, take it, literally just replaced the template. There was literally nothing different from the template. Exact same thing. I had no offer. I had nothing to sell people. I had no products at this point. So at the end of it, I was like, all right, we'll do coaching. Sounds good. So I made this webinar and the offer within 90 minutes. Pretty much worst case scenario. For whatever reason, this is kind of a random fact, but so I'm doing this webinar and we just moved into this house, so I had like no furniture and I'm sitting in the office because there was no Wi-Fi yet either, so I'm hardwired into the router. And I gave the entire webinar for 2.5 hours, basically curled up in a ball on the floor like this, which is not good for the inflection of your voice. So it didn't sound good. Sounded nervous because I was like, at this time I think I was like 23, 24, and not a ton of public speaking experience or anything like that. So it was just a disaster to the point where as I was going into the close of this webinar, which you guys have all been on webinars, so I'm literally at the point where I'm like, yeah, so then you go out and you do this, this, and this. So as you guys can see, this is a really cool business model. You can use this. Computer dies. Oh my God. So I go and plug my laptop in, and I'm just crushed at this point. I'm like, all right, everything is gone. I need to go get my job back. This is terrible. So that all happens, and then I get back on the webinar, and luckily enough, there's still a few people there. It was 15 minutes of downtime as we transitioned into the close. Yeah, and they knew the close was coming because I was like, so here's what. Yeah. So battery dies. I come back online, and I was just completely crushed at this point. So I'm walking out, gotta get my job back, gotta move out of this house. This terrible idea. I don't know what I was thinking. Turn a blog into a business. What was I thinking? So I walked out to my business partner who was on the webinar as well, but in a different room. And I walk out to him, and he's just flipping out. Like, I've never seen a better expression on the guy's face. I'm like, dude, what happened? This was a disaster. $37,000 in our PayPal account, just from that. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, holy shit, this is a business. Because we just screwed up in every way possible. We didn't even prepare. We didn't even have a product. And we made $37,000 cash in the PayPal account right now. Like, I can go buy a Mercedes. Obviously, I didn't do that, but... So that was 2 hours, 37 grand in revenue. For something I threw together in 90 minutes, I paid 120 bucks for a webinar template. The highest return on investment I've ever had. So 75,000 in invoiced revenue from that first webinar. And ironically, that's still one of our top earning webinars. It's definitely in like the top 10 to 20%. But the reason for that was because I built so many relationships and these people were just sitting there waiting to buy things from me. They desperately just wanted to buy things from me. So I was an idiot and didn't do that for like a year and a half. So lessons learned, copy other people shamelessly. Obviously, you never want to do just straight up, intellectual property infringement, but you got to model what's working for other people. And people that don't do this or people that think that this is somehow bad, they're not going to win. Like me and Daniel, I think is an interesting example of this. Like me and Daniel give our best ideas to each other, and then we steal each other's ideas. Like literally last week, I'm jumping on a call with Daniel. I'm like, dude, your Facebook group is killing it. Tell me how to copy that, because I want that. And he just told me how to copy it. So, and vice versa. I hope you've gotten some stuff from me too. But it's that abundance mindset. I think a lot of people try to hold on to their knowledge as if it's something that, actually has value, which it really doesn't. Get those ideas out there, and the best thing, like Louis C.K. has a really interesting philosophy on comedy, and obviously he's one of the best comics that has ever lived, success-wise. And what he'll do a lot of times, if he's feeling off his game, he will walk out on stage and open with his closer. So he'll open with his best joke, and the crowd will go wild, and then he is fucked. And then he just has to sit there and come up with new jokes and stuff. So open with your best stuff. Give away everything you know, and just magically new things will enter, right? What's that Bruce Lee, I think it's a Bruce Lee metaphor with the empty cup, right? If you're sitting there with these ideas in your head and you think that these are somehow valuable, you're just never going to communicate and create value for other people. You have to give it all away, empty out your cup, and just magically new, better knowledge, higher level relationships will fill that gap. It just happens. It's not even something you have to try. And that's where that abundance scarcity mindset comes into play. For a long time, I didn't understand when people talked about this abundance versus scarcity mindset. And ideas are, to me, the best representation of it because, yeah, if your head is just filled with all these old ideas, you're going to stagnate and never grow as a person or a business. You got to get it out of your head, and it just magically gets filled. If you're truly helping your target customer, nobody's going to care that you're copying people. And never copy the message, right? Never copy the positioning, but copy the mechanics, copy the delivery. Because people like me and Daniel have spent millions of dollars trying to figure out how to run webinars effectively, how to set up Infusionsoft effectively, what the best, email, this and that, all these crazy little tactics. We've already spent so much money doing that. And there's people that we copy that have spent 100 times more than we have. So you can literally take advantage of hundreds of millions of dollars of investment by just copying what's already working for other people. The positioning and the messaging and what you're doing for the customers obviously needs to be different, but the way that you deliver that message should be copied from what's already working for that market. And you always look at your market too. Like the marketing methods we use in this business are extremely different from the ones we use in the e-commerce business because it's just a different business. It's a different, just a different customer that we have to deliver this stuff to in a different way.
A real quick question.
Yeah.
So going back to making $37,000 in 2 hours in that webinar, so when I hear that, I'm like, that's friggin' awesome. But then if you didn't sell a course, you were selling coaching, how did you handle that workload? That's $37,000 worth of work.
Yes. So we essentially got on there and we said, hey, for the next 12 weeks, we're going to jump on webinars with you once a week and we're going to help you build this business. That was basically the pitch. And again, because I had built so many strong relationships with people in that target audience, that's all they needed to hear, right? If they had never heard of me before, if this was like cold Facebook traffic, then the sales process needs to be a lot more in depth. And it needs to be, there's a lot more mechanics that go in. But if you're selling to, owned media, if you're selling to your own audience, if you've done your job properly in connecting with them the right way and really differentiating yourself, I think they won't need to hear much. I honestly think they didn't care what I was selling. They just wanted to work with me. I honestly think that's the case. So, but I will come to that in a sec because then we had to actually produce this stuff and that was fun. So yeah, eureka moment here was you don't actually need a product to make money. It's great. That's the eureka moment. It's so much harder to do this as you go. It definitely is, like you said, it's much more difficult to sell expectation and then deliver the expectation or over-deliver ideally. But I think it is 100% the right way to go. This really gave me the kick in the ass I needed to treat this thing like a real business and start working 10, 12-hour days and stop looking at it as a personal blog. And, money just changes everything. So at that point, it was a real business. And it's so much better to do it this way. Like you just heard from Manish, who is perhaps a great example of that, of the MVP model, of making it up as you go. And honestly, while the traditional formal education version of life says, man, you're underprepared, you're making it up as you go, you must be terrible, this must be a nightmare. But that is entrepreneurship. And that's why so few people can be entrepreneurs, because not many people are comfortable and confident enough to make it up as they go and collect money from people and know that they're going to over-deliver on that. So yeah, but that's 100% the right way to do it. I would not recommend anybody here create a product first. Create the audience first. The audience needs to come first, then ask them what they want and give that to them.
Most of all three of us did that. Mm-hmm. Speaking did that first. So message.
It's very rare to go the other way, right? Who builds product and then they just figure out what happens? Like you get like Jet.com. Like granted, they made like $1 billion in a year, but like.
But that's a company that never made money.
They never made money.
Never made a dime.
Companies never profitable. All high growth companies never raise funds because they have to figure out slowly who they are.
And look at Apple. Apple, 15 days away from bankruptcy because they created products with no customers. They created the Lisa and the Newton and all these things that almost took the company under because they didn't understand who their customer was. They were just making products that Steve Jobs thought was cool. And then when he came back, he was very good at creating and actually finding the market first and building into that market. So late 2014, everything starts moving very, very quickly now. And that's how these businesses work. At the end of this presentation, I have a timeline that kind of shows the major events of the business. And there's like 4 from 2012 to 2014. And then pretty much every month from there is filled. So it snowballs so quickly. You have to build the audience first. And it really does take time to nail down your message, your differentiation, your UVP, USP, which would be unique value proposition and unique selling proposition. These things take time to figure out, and it can be frustrating. But you have to accept also that if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to be an entrepreneur for life. And if you play that long game, it's going to be so much less frustrating when you're first starting out. Because one thing I was talking about with you guys is I love this quote, this idea of think big, act small. It's important to have the big overarching vision. It's important to have, I want to make millions of dollars and retire in this house. And that's all important, but that will never get you anywhere. You have to have the big vision that gets you out of bed in the morning and gets you fired up. But then you need to constantly take yourself back, force yourself back, and think about what's the next smallest action I can take to actually get closer to that. Another metaphor I really like is like, if I'm in LA, which for once I'm actually in LA when I'm telling this metaphor, so that's fun. But if I'm in LA and I want to go to New York, I have this overarching vision, right? I know I want to get to New York. But the only way to get to New York is to get in the car and look at the 20 feet in front of your car, right? It's not like when you're driving to New York, you're sitting there with binoculars looking at New York. No, you're looking at the 10 feet in front of you that the headlights actually illuminate. And that's what business is at the end of the day. It's important to know where you're going, but it's so much more important to focus on the 10 feet in front of you because that's where all the magic happens. That's where all the progress happens. Thank you. So late 2014, built the program out as we went. I think, Robert, you might have been in the program at a pretty early stage, so you kind of saw all this happen. And hopefully, I'm giving you guys kind of the worst case, least glamorous version of this. I think Robert would tell you we did a pretty good job at making it seem like we knew what we were doing. So built the program out as we went. And this was actually really interesting because some of our happiest customers were in these first couple groups of clients. And we were just so reactive to these people, and we were so appreciative that they had actually made a commitment with us and had confidence in us to teach them these things. We were just so reactive to customer pain points or issues or anything like that these people actually ended up being some of our biggest fans to this day just because our service level was so good in these first couple courses. So again, I say, we didn't have a product to sell, but just the fact that we're good, and I think a lot of people in here are good business people that truly want to create value for other people. If you have that as your underlying foundation, you will not let yourself fail. You will not let your customers fail. And yes, it's a ton of work, especially when you don't have anything to sell and you have to create it as you go. This was a horrible 12 weeks of my life. But for the customers, it was great. And this was honestly, out of all the groups, the first like 2 or 3 were some of our best just because we still had the ability to individually connect with every single person in there.
Just to piggyback on that, I almost went to China. I was going to go with
Nice.
You guys in the China group had it not been for my dad having, just almost a life-ending surgery. I was about to go, and part of the reason was because how well he was communicating with us on an individual level. I just felt like if I went with them, my business would shoot up. So.
Yeah, and that's, again, it's not like, to that point, you probably didn't even read the landing page or the videos or anything like that. You just knew we were going to China, and you were like, man, every time I work with these guys, it's awesome. Yep. I should do this too. And that's, so many people think about the copywriting and all these things. Some of the most successful marketers I know don't even make sales pages. Like, you go to buy their $10,000 products, and it's like a checkout page. Maybe there's like a couple little points. But the stronger that relationship is, honestly, the more money you can make, everything. So, like I said, everything started moving really, really quickly on this. But interestingly enough, this was another point where I probably should have just hired a coach or a consultant to come in and tell me what to do next, because we resold this coaching program for at least a year. We just at the beginning of this year, in January of this year, we turned this thing into a product. So up until late 2015, this was still a service. This was still a 12-week coaching program. And eventually we said, man, we can't grow anymore. And again, we've lost the ability now to connect with individual customers. We need to stop treating this thing like a service and turn it into a product. So we basically productized our service, and that's been going really well for us. And then, like I said, everything just started moving so quickly here. Customers started demanding that we do events. People, especially Canton Fair, people wanted to go to the Canton Fair. They were asking us about the Canton Fair. Like, yeah, I mean, Canton Fair is good and everything. Canton Fair is a big product sourcing festival in China. And we had a lot of people that wanted to go to that. So we're like, all right, I guess we're going to the Canton Fair because you guys want to go to the Canton Fair. So within like probably 4 to 6 weeks, we set up this trip to China. Again, absolute nightmare. We lost money on it. I was dumb enough to fly everybody into Hong Kong and then take them over the Chinese border into China, all different countries. We paid for the visas, we handled the passports, nightmare. But again, now I know more than probably any other person out there about visas and passport stuff. Again, bad mistake, yes, but this is where these like guru experts come from, right? I've just fucked up so many times that I kind of know what to look out for, and I know the solutions to everything now. But customers demanded we did that, so we did that. It was not fun the first time, but we're still doing to this day. Now we have 2 Canton Fair events. It's called the Sourcing Summit now. So it's actually kind of a separate business that we may roll off and sell one day, separate from StartupBros. But so we still do that, but the first one was very, very bad. Pretty much the first time we do everything is really bad, and then we figure it out. But the snowball effect definitely came into effect at that point. So fast forward to today. I'm going to skip most of 2016 and cover a lot of that in the Q&A, hopefully. But fast forward to today, we have over 6,000 paying clients. Customer lifetime value right now is right under $1,000. I'm waiting to get it over $1,000. We do 3 world-class events, in my opinion, per year. We do 2 Canton Fair events. We also do this big, crazy world-class conference that, again, we lost a ton of money on that one, but
It was a great conference.
It was. And now we have sponsors coming to us, and yeah, so in the long game it worked, but if you're just trying to immediately make revenue on that, never. So we do that event. We get over 3.5 million unique visitors per year on the site now, organically. 200,000 email subscribers about. I think we're at like 185 or something, 187. And now we have the ability to leverage assets. Like the reason I'm at this event right now is because I was just in San Diego closing a deal to start a new business with 2 people that are way bigger than I am in this e-commerce and Amazon space. So we're starting this company, FBAprep.com, and this is where it gets really fun because the only thing I'm bringing to the table here is a bunch of customers and sales and marketing knowledge and things like that. So I'm able to leverage these assets now. Like this FBAprep.com company, the goal is within 3 years to make about a $25 million exit. So this, it just snowballs so quickly. You go from losing money to having the opportunity for substantial cash windfalls so quickly it will blow your mind. And it's all, the key to it all is that audience and the relationship you have with the audience. Because if you have a strong relationship, they'll tell you what they want to buy, and they'll buy it from you before anyone else. So timeline, so 2012, so technically I was a little wrong earlier. I actually registered the domain name in September 2012. And so that's our first little milestone here. In December, I wrote that blog post, that first blog post on the website. And then nothing happened for 12 months, nothing at all. So 2012, I lost $2,000 on this business, just like initial investments, getting the logo created, setting up the website, just all these little things. 2013, again, that was kind of my dead year, didn't really do anything there. But late in December 2013, I left that company and actually started running this thing as a business. So at this stage, we'd actually lost 20 grand on this thing. And I'm not saying you guys have to lose 20 grand on this. It was just, because I had that full-time job, I was fine kind of throwing money at things and seeing what worked, what didn't work. And then 2014 is when I actually started running this thing as a business. Really, April 19th, 2014 is the day that this turned into a business and had actual things to sell. July, we sold the same exact thing. October, we went to the Canton Fair. So again, this is like a couple months. went to the Canton Fair with a bunch of people, and by this point, we literally owned this industry. It was us and one competitor were still the top 2 in this industry. That's all it took, 6 months. November, we sold the same program again. January, sold the same program again. April, same program again, and we did a second Canton trip, so we went to China again there. July, sold the same thing. October, sold the same. Actually, October, we did a trip to China and a conference in Orlando, which was a bad idea. Don't do 2 events at the same time. Bad idea. November, sold the exact same thing again. And then January, we actually turned this thing into a product. And 2014, the business in total had made about 750 grand in revenue. By 2015, selling the same thing over and over again, it had produced about 3.5 million in revenue. 2016, again, this is really when things are getting fun for us. The business really didn't grow that much from 2015 to 2016, and the reason for that is because of the things we've been talking about. It's really difficult to scale these businesses, but obviously I think most people here just want to get to that $3 million mark and not worry about scale yet, and you shouldn't. Yeah, so there's a couple other things in here, like January 2015 we hired our first employee. May, June, July we hired more people. April we did another trip to China. And then pretty much every month now we have like a sustainable content calendar, promotion calendar, things that we're doing. Like November, we're doing an event in Tampa. So just all sorts of things. But again, it all goes back to having that audience and having them trust you. If you have a relationship with that audience, they will tell you what they want to buy and they'll buy it from you before anybody else. They won't look at the competition, they'll only look to you. And that's really what the magic of this business is. 2017 should be a very interesting year for us. The past 6 months, we've really sacrificed a lot of revenue and left a lot of revenue on the table to make things more efficient and to remove complexity from the business and simplify the business because it is very difficult. Complexity is the enemy of scale in business, and that's one of the really tough things when your business gets to like 3-5 million is it's not even customers. It's not even getting new customers that holds you back at that point. It's like the inefficiency within your own organization. So that's when it gets really fun. But yeah, so we got all of these events. We got all sorts of partnerships in place. We got a lot of people that are bigger than me, way bigger than me in this industry now that are coming to us and saying, hey, let's make a course together. So just fun stuff like that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We got a complete pivot of this business coming in January, which I'm very excited to come out with. I can explain that a little bit if you guys want, but 7 full-time staff right now, 5 part-time partners and employees. Got people buying into this business now, so I'm actually able to take cash off the table and take cash out of this business now. Projected revenue for 2017, I'm hoping, is 10 million. That's our goal. And that's basically it, so we have lots of fun with it. So yeah, that's pretty much my life for the past couple of years. If you guys have any questions, feel free. I have some bonus stuff we can talk about as well, but I'd rather do questions here for a couple minutes. I didn't mean to cut off your clap, by the way. I appreciate it.
I have a question. For your first course or coaching, how much did you charge for that, the 12-week?
The first time we did it, it was $497, and that was a bad idea. We pretty much immediately brought the price up once we realized that people were really happy with it. And that helped a lot. Honestly, yeah, it's when you're first starting out, I can't overstate the luxury, how good and how luxurious it is that you can actually sit there in the Facebook group and talk to every single customer and things like that. So I think like the first time you do it, you got to undercharge a little bit and you got to over-deliver a little bit. And then as you kind of develop sales assets and case studies and testimonials and stuff, you can start to move those things to the other side. Yeah, and automating things, making things more efficient. Like you really need to be good at scaling up the delivery of your knowledge, right? Because what's one way to deliver knowledge is like the simplest way to deliver knowledge to another person is just talking to them, right? So when we first started this thing, a lot of it was me sitting in Facebook chat, answering my clients and being like, all right, here's what you do, here's what you do. And then through doing that, you kind of start to see what the common pain points are, and you start to really develop these kind of methods to solve problems. And then you need to figure out how to put that in a different medium, whether it be like an infographic or a video or whatever it is, and figure out how to deliver that before that person ever has that question. Because really the way I see it at this point if someone emails me with a question, that's really a failure of my training program. People shouldn't have questions. That's the point of the program, right? So every time someone emails our support department, I have to assume that there's 10 to 20 people who had the same problem who didn't email our support department. And it takes up my support team's time. So the best way to do it is solve those questions before they come up, because the customer's happier, you have less to do. So it's just a win-win for both sides, really.
How are you able to get to almost 10 million projected next year and you only have 7 full-time staff?
You know, I actually overhired at certain points of this business, and in general, hiring is a very interesting animal. You have to be really careful, honestly, about hiring. There's competitors of mine that probably make more money than I do with like 2 people. So I know even my team is still running inefficiently. And yeah, I think with hiring, I really think you have to do it yourself for as long as you possibly can until it's so painful to do that it makes sense to give it away to someone. But I would take it so freaking slow on hiring people. Dude, the first person I hired and had to fire probably stayed on payroll for an extra 6 months just because it is so terrifying and horrible to fire people. So one bad hire is going to cost you at least $80,000, probably over $120,000. So I say go really slow on hiring. But I could also go through like that team and what they do and all that fun stuff too. There's really only a few positions that are absolutely necessary.
I want to say something on hiring.
Yeah.
There's a truism which I keep not believing that it's almost always true, which is like as soon as you have a thought that someone should be fired, it's almost always the time to fire them right then, because that thought rarely goes away and it almost never happens that they improve just for some reason.
Yeah.
Of course, there's like not always, but like yeah, almost always. And secondly, it's like it's possible to get contractors now in a way that never was possible ever in the past, and that's okay. Freelancers are great services because you don't have to worry or you know it's risk free. Even like programmers, there's these services like TopTal that are expensive, $10,000 a month for a programmer, but you get a great high quality vetted programmer, and you can just cut ties with them anytime, and it's not offensive and it's not hard. So play with those strengths.
Agreed.
This is gonna sound really like stupid, but what does your company do?
That's probably my fault. I probably should have explained that.
Sorry, I don't know,
So yeah, kind of the elevator pitch is that we help aspiring entrepreneurs start their first profitable business through online training, live events, workshops, things like that. I can show you kind of our main product if you'd like. I'd be very happy to show you our product. So really, we still only sell one thing, and that's why I think we're going to get to 10 million next year, because we've figured out the inefficiencies. We figured out how to scale content production, and that is so tough to do. But we figured that out, and we have a lot of partnerships in place right now. Like you might be familiar with Ezra Firestone. So in December, I'm flying up to his offices, and we're going to create a course together for StartupBros. So we're starting to expand into different verticals. You guys were talking about Kickstarter. Like I have a guy that does Kickstarter campaigns who's going to come create a course for us.
Who's
that? Well, there's 2 guys. Zach Smith from Funded Today, who I'd actually recommend staying away from at this point.
Okay.
So I know I told him to talk, or told you to talk to him at some point. So there's another business that I just linked up with yesterday called I have it written down in my notebook. It's like Command. It's something completely unrelated from crowdfunding, but it's probably going to be that guy, because the Funded Today I'm not a big fan of anymore. But we can talk about that later. Sure. So yeah, through doing that kind of stuff, I think that's how we're going to get. Because right now we're making like 3.5 a year on one product. I think if we just make a second product, we can bump that up at least by 20-30%. So. And like there was a big fear with me for a long time. I'm sure Daniel probably had the same thing. It's like, but I teach e-commerce, but I teach Amazon. But I teach freelancing. How am I going to make a product about this? And it's this, again, you have to grow as a person and kind of figure out that people aren't just following you for that one thing. And people like us, we spend money on all sorts of different courses. So so yeah, that's kind of one of the pivots we're making here. But so this is it. We basically teach people how to find products and launch them on Amazon, turn them into e-commerce brands, product lines. So the goal of the program is within 12 weeks, you go from never have sold anything online on Amazon to having a sustainable, consistently selling e-commerce brand by the end of the 12 weeks. So we help people launch their products and brands on Amazon and then kind of transition them off after that into their own Shopify store and things like that. And I can log into here if you want. Like it's just slowly grown.
And how does it work? It's something that is all computerized, or it's like a one-on-one coaching?
Yeah, I can show you I'll log in real quick and show you. But it's basically, it's just like a course, honestly. Even our messaging is a little funky right now, and I'd like to simplify it. Like right now, we still do 12 weeks of coaching with the I think it's like an 8-module program right now. So right now, we're still doing coaching with it. And then that's another revenue stream that we found, because like when we first did this thing, it was you get unlimited email coaching, you get this Facebook group, you get the weekly coaching webinars, and that was it. It's expanded so much from there. Like now we have all of that stuff, and we figured out how to turn those into additional revenue streams. So like when people sign up, they get upsold the one-on-one email coaching. It's like $197 a month, and we have people that'll just sit on that forever. It's like $59 a month now, I think, to go with our group coaching webinars, which most people do. So we get people in kind of a package deal and give them 12 weeks of coaching for free. And then at the end of that point, if they want to continue with us, there's kind of continuity models and things like that. I'll log into this really quick to show you, though. It's honestly super simple. Again, I think people really overthink this stuff. As Daniel said, like by the time this program had made over $1 million, it was still like the same that it was when it had made $0. So it was literally just my undying need to serve these people and create value for these people. My reputation as a business person was on the line, so there was no way I was gonna let these people not be completely amazed at how valuable this program was.
Every time Will speaks or talks, like every time I've seen him present, it's like it comes very clearly across that he really cares about his customer and like how much he really cares about it. And I think that's rare from most presentations, and probably even for me, like I'm more harsh than Will is, and I think that's a really valuable skill to cultivate. That you're not trying to beat your customer or trick your customer, but you're trying to make your customer succeed for him alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, this is the program, and we have a couple different things in here, but we don't even sell these things. These are bonuses now. So I can actually show you, like, this was the original training program. So it was literally me and different guests and different people I know that would come in and kind of teach this is our event, actually. But I can show you that too. So this is some of our original programs. So you can actually see, here's our first program ever, and literally just made it up as I go, right? Every week I'd kind of hang out with my customers for 2-3 hours. I'd figure out where they're at, what problems they're having, kind of what the next step is, and then every week I would just create a new training module basically for them, depending on where they were in the process. So it was actually a really reactive and natural way to build it. It's a lot of work because you can't stop, but again, I kind of like that. I like forcing myself to work hard. So you definitely can't stop when you do it this way. And if you do, obviously you're going to have refunds and you're going to go out of business and you're going to get sued and all these things. But if you can consistently stay with it, you'll find that the product you deliver is actually way better than anything you could have made beforehand. Exactly. And with how quick industries change now, like some marketing method that works today, it's going to be completely different in 3 months. So it wasn't like we were selling people this program that they just had to like watch videos and figure out how it worked for them. We were literally coaching them through the entire process. So yeah, you can see some of these things. Even as a speaker, like I love going back and listening to some of our early webinars on YouTube, because I am so embarrassed of myself. Even a year ago, I'm embarrassed of myself. But so yeah, I mean, we basically did these webinars, and I have no idea how these things even sound. I don't know if you have.
And then basically, we want you guys to find those 2 killer products. We want you guys to do really.
You see, not nearly as exciting as I am now, and there's a lot of uhs and ums. It took me a year to figure out how to not say every four words.
VIP at StartupBros.com box, which we check constantly.
But yeah, so pretty much just making stuff up as we go.
Germany, if you're looking at a different box.
So I obviously won't make you guys watch this whole thing, but so that was kind of the first one. And then we continued to do that for, as you can see here, let's look. We continued to do that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 consecutive 12-week groups before we, we're idiots. So before we realized, oh wait, let's just turn this into a product and stop doing the same thing over and over again every 12 weeks. So the new.
You learned from doing that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That was a huge. That's how you got to.
Yeah. And it definitely reflected too, like our last couple 12-week programs were not very good because we kind of done it all, we kind of learned it all, and it just wasn't really fun for us anymore. When we went to turn it into a product though, it got fun again. And honestly, like I said, some of our happiest customers were in the first and second Jumpstart group that we did, because that's what we called it at the time. And yeah, so. And
Will,
yeah.
I have a question. When you were teaching here, is what your work was before, like as a CMO in the e-commerce?
Yeah,
Something like that?
essentially, we kind of made a method for people to use. I have a lot of experience with e-commerce and selling products, and like when I was 13, I was big on counterfeits and had this airsoft brand. So I'd done e-commerce before in the past, but honestly, like I did e-commerce when I was 14, 15 years old. Amazon was in its infancy at that point. So when we came back to this market, honestly, we had to figure everything out over again. And again, that's what really helped too, because we're still very different from any of our competitors because we teach people how to build real businesses. Everybody else is teaching you how to get a product on Amazon and make $1,000 a month, which is fine. We do that too, but we're also going to show you how to turn this into a brand, a product line, something that's really sustainable, something you can be proud of and potentially sell one day. Because yeah, not many people think about the exit strategy of these businesses. But yeah, I did have experience with it. So, but this is the program now, so it's much more built out. As you can see, we just kind of broke it out into a step-by-step strategy. And sorry, I'm looking down right now. So
These were done like all webinars.
These ones were This is the actual product that. So we turned the 12-week coaching program, which was a service, into a product and just took everything that we learned and basically created a step-by-step video series for it. So that's what this is. And honestly, we're still in the process of building this out and improving this more and more all the time. But you can see now it's just like an actual course now. It's a product that people go through. We have all sorts of little handouts and things for them to look at and all these tricks and stuff. So again, we just figured out how to scale up the delivery of knowledge because that's what was holding us back from growing. A lot of people think it's going to be the competition that stops you. It was not the competition. It was the fact that we were doing the same 12-week program over and over and over again, and it took the same amount of time every single time. And then there was one point when we got like 600 customers on one of these things, and it almost fell apart. Like everything almost fell apart because we had like 300 people on these coaching webinars, and it's me and one guy, and it's just flooding, and we're like, oh my God, this is terrible. And all these people have expectations. So at that point, we really took a step back and said, we got to raise our prices, we got to make this thing ultra efficient, and we got to get back to growing the business, working on the business, not working in the business, right?
So is the luxury of being a startup, I remember you saying that you can actually give so much attention to your customer and build relationships. So is that where you're servicing, you actually have a service consulting in the beginning, and then you scale by actually creating a product.
Yeah, I think that is the right way to build this business.
Right.
After finding out what your clients need.
Yeah, and the way we actually do this now, we should have a whiteboard or something. But in reality, the way this all works is like front-end content, right? Say a blog post. We write a whole bunch of blog posts, we make a whole bunch of YouTube videos, do guest podcasts, all this stuff, and 1 out of every 100 things that we do is going to be a hit. And we're gonna hit the pulse of the market, the right place at the right time. And right when we do that, we need to start building out lead magnets, basically build a sales funnel underneath our front-end content that's successful. And that's how we're kind of expanding into different verticals now. Is just like the #1 post on our site right now today is actually nothing to do with e-commerce and importing. It's how to name your business. Really interesting. Like if you Google how to name your business, I think we're like the second thing. So Now we need to go back to that and basically rewrite that post, make it better, and also come up with something to get people on our email list, customized content upgrades they're called, customized lead magnets to give more value to these people in exchange for the email. And then from there, we need to build out something underneath. What's it going to be? I have no idea. Maybe we make a small course and sell it. Maybe it's a $7 ebook. Maybe it's a $9.97 program. Really, we need to look at, because when businesses like this get to this size, now we need to look at the individual audiences that are interacting on the platform, because only a certain percentage of the people that come to our site are interested in Amazon and e-commerce. The whole other segment, the whole other 50% does not care about that, and if they see that, they're like, this isn't for me, closed, done with StartupBros forever. So now we're at this point where to expand into different verticals is actually very difficult, and that's kind of how we're doing it, is taking successful front-end content and building sales funnels underneath them. Because that's essentially what we did with this one blog post, so we're just going to do it again.
We got a whiteboard upstairs if you want to.
Oh yeah, we could do it, but I just kind of explained the whole thing, so.
You made a comment earlier, you said that if you have to create the content now, you can't scale it. Is that because of where you are in business and from a time investment perspective?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I'm amazed that Daniel still writes all of his content. It's amazing. You're much quicker at it than I am too. But no, I think a lot of people get caught up on that stuff. I have to be writing the content. They feel it's scammy or something if they're not writing the content. I personally think I can deliver more value to the world by calling really good writers and explaining my ideas to them and having them create awesome content pieces, because that's not my specialty. My specialty is going out and figuring out how to make business work. Once I figure that stuff out, I'm very bad at getting that out there. That's why I have this team in place to help me get this knowledge out of my head and out to the target audience. But that's really the tough part, because it's really easy to do that when it's just you and a customer, right? When it's just me and you, I can sit there and chat with you on Facebook chat and show you everything. But when I can't Facebook chat with anybody, now I need to somehow deliver this knowledge and create this relationship without any actual personal time invested. And that's the difficult part. But definitely start with the audience first. Like, don't think about how tough it's going to be to scale businesses like this, because that's for when you're making $3 million a year, And at that point, you'll have money to throw around, and you'll be,
Figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. All this stuff gets figured out as you go. So that's, and I could keep on showing you this stuff, but honestly, it's like your standard course at this point. We do, we have a very high success rate for our clients. We have a very cool model and everything that we take them through. But at the end of the day, it's a course. And then I have a couple little bonus things here that I'll talk about. If anyone has any other questions, feel free. So one thing that Manish is not going to like, which I think when I first walked in here, you're like, we might be contradicting each other. Yeah.
But I think you're righter than I am.
Well, it's interesting too, because I love business because, again, everyone thinks it's like a pass or fail thing, but business is so gray. There's so many different ways to be successful. There's no such thing as right or wrong. There's only hustling and getting results. So either way works, but the really important thing is to try a bunch of different things, figure out what works for you, and stick with that. Like we were talking about morning routines. I've went through so many periods where I'm like, oh man, if I just had the right morning routine, everything would be unlocked. I would just make millions of dollars. And you sit there and stress yourself out about these stupid, oh man, I have to go, there's been some really dumb ones I've done. Like, oh man, I have to, look at the Tony Robbins stuff. Oh, I have to go jump in a 55-degree pool. Oh no, it's 54 degrees? That's why I'm not successful. So yeah, I think it's important to realize that every entrepreneur is going to be successful in their own way. And I think that's one of the magical parts of entrepreneurship is your success doesn't have to be defined by others. You can define your own success and create your own success. Yes, as long as you don't raise money. Then you basically bought yourself a job. So I have this one principle called the 99-1 principle. And I'm sure you guys have heard of the 80-20 principle. 80% of anything comes from 20%. So 80% of your revenue is going to come from 20% of your customers. 80% of your traffic comes from 20% of your blog posts, this whole 80-20 thing. I like to think about the 99-1 principle in my own life and my productivity because, as Manish said, you're either a starter or a finisher. And that's kind of how I classify people. So when I hire people, I'm looking for finishers. The last thing I need is more starters. Holy cow, give me another starter. I'm gonna be the most stressed out person in the world, and it's horrible. So I need to hire finishers, right? But this principle that I like to think about, this 99-1 principle, 99% of the results of any project happen in the last 1% of work, right? If I write a 20,000 word blog post and it's awesome and I went through and created all these graphics and all these awesome things, no value has been created in the world yet. Yeah, there's like 1% of value, right? Because like I know it a little better, my ideas are a little bit more structured, but 99% of the value of that project happens when you click publish. When you click publish and it goes out to the world, you've just literally 99.999% of the value that created happened in that last 1% of work, clicking that. So I think it's so important, especially for people like us starters, because I think most of us are probably starters. You have to force yourself, especially when you're first starting out and you don't have a team yet, you have to force yourself to get things to completion all the way, because the worst thing that you can do as an entrepreneur is have 60 different open projects, because then your brain can't even focus on any one project. It's just so, you're stuck in this decision queue and you're just looping in your head and you never get anything done, and it's horrible. So 99-1 principle, like select a few number of things to do and complete them 100%, because 99% is useless. 100% is the only thing that creates value for your customer. You only need one product, you only need one marketing method, you only need one thing that works. And this is really important too. Like, we made so much money on this program with Facebook ads. We just did Facebook ads. So we want to talk about AdWords and Twitter ads and Instagram ads and all these different things, and LinkedIn, and how do we do this, and all these different things. Completely useless. And it would have been such a waste of time for me to go and learn those things. You just need one thing that works. Once you find something that works, once you find sustainable ROI, sustainable return on investment, if there's an ATM that you put $1 in and $2 come out, you're going to continue to put money in. So find one thing that works and literally just burn it the hell out. Look at Tai Lopez. The only reason any of us know Tai Lopez, that name, is because he did that. He spent every single dime he made for probably 3 months or so, spent every dime he made on ads, YouTube ads specifically. So focus on creating values for others. Think about the biggest companies in the world. Google has no ads. Like, Apple barely has ads. They just started doing ads after Steve Jobs, passed away. There's tons of companies out there that the product itself, like, when's the last time you saw a Tesla ad? But we all know Tesla. We all want to buy Teslas. How does that happen? Just remember that it's about creating value for other people. No one's buying Teslas because they have a really cool billboard campaign. They're buying Teslas because they're Teslas, and it's the brand story. It's what they do for people. It's the value they create, what they represent. People buy why you do things. People don't buy what you sell or what you do. They buy why you do it. And that brand story is always very, very important. Do things that customers see. I think it's very easy for entrepreneurs to end up being busy and not productive. You need to constantly take steps back, and this is something I still struggle with to this day. You need to always take a step back and say, is this actually valuable for my customer? If I was talking to a room of 100 of my customers right now, would they be pissed at me for working on this, or would they be happy that I'm working on this? That's a really easy way to figure out if you're being productive or busy. And perhaps the biggest shift I've had in my life is to stop learning things and start doing them. You can learn things for your entire life. At the risk of bankrupting me and Daniel, stop learning things. Stop buying courses. Like, you still want to buy courses and things like that, but you can't think that the course is the solution, right? You have to go after a business. You have to have a goal. If you don't have a really strong why, if you don't have a really strong goal behind what you're doing and actually know what you're doing, why you're doing it, you're just going to run in 50 different directions, whatever the flavor of the day is, whatever marketing page you landed on, you're just going to go in that direction. And you're going to end up just running through life in this zigzag fashion, never getting anywhere, and just ending up on the same path that you started on. This is what, you feel like you're just spinning your wheels and not getting anywhere. I think it's really important to stop learning and start doing. Daniel and I and Manish, we are not that smart, but we're really confident that we can figure shit out as we go. So that's really the secret.
Things like people who grew up up smart, it's like often really hard for us because we never built good, or some people don't build good habits when they're younger. And so like when they breeze through school, just like being smart, and they never built the right way, systems to finish stuff. So be careful if you are smart, especially if you find yourself having that conversation like I could do that, but you don't do it. Then you gotta take a step back and realize why am I not doing it.
Yeah, and treat this like a sport. Treat this like a sport. There's nothing different between what we do and professional NFL players. We need to be that dedicated and that disciplined towards our craft and what we do with our lives. Be a professional entrepreneur. Don't be an amateur entrepreneur. If you're going to do it, go all in and make this your life. I think that's really important too, because if you don't go all in, again, you're just going to spin your wheels forever and blame other people for your lack of success. Just get out there and start taking action. Realize that you're going to screw up a few times along the way, but every single time I lose money, it just turns into a really good story for situations like this. So that's why business people are some of the most interesting people too, because we take crazy risks that no one else will, and you end up having really good drinking stories. So, but that's basically my spiel. If you guys have any other questions, feel free. But I know we're probably going to be going to dinner and stuff too, so I'll be around till the rest of tonight.